Welcome everybody to another episode of Altered Attitudes. We've asked Jack to come back. We had such a good response on views for the last one that we did on ketamine, and I really appreciate all of the positive and constructive criticism that we got in the comments. Just like to say, the reason that there's several reasons why we do these podcasts, but I'd like to think one of the most important reasons is that we want to be informative. We want to sort of dig into and unpack addiction, especially like ketamine, because there seems very little on the internet about it. And in our telephone service at Rehabs UK, we get a lot of people asking, especially parents, what do I do? I don't know what to do. And that's more of a difficult answer to that question, given the state of the country and the state of treatment and state of understanding. So we try and address that. And so I'd like to think that, part of what we're talking about in the conversations that we have before is, trying to answer that question by looking at the problem and thinking of the parents, because again, this is ketamine it's a lot of young people with this problem, and their parents are going to be the front line support and help. And so, like I say, thank you for commenting. But if you have a good story, or you think that that you understand something that could help this conversation, please reach out to us through the comments to Matt. You can leave a link at the end. We're hoping to get Jack's mum on here to kind of get it from the horse's mouth, what she did and what she would recommend that you do. But again, the goal is just to try and be informative. So hopefully it helps. Really appreciate Jack coming all this way to, we realised that last time there was still a lot left to talk about. So we thought we'd do that today. So welcome back, Jack.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to come back. Pleasure to be come and do this podcast again. I was quite shocked with the amount of views and more the amount of people that reached out to me. I knew it was a massive problem all up and down the UK, and the people that reached out to me that are suffering from the consequences of ketamine was quite overwhelming, and it's a bit taken back, and it just reiterates to me that there's a massive problem running through the UK, and not a lot of the physicians people that I spoke to that are going to hospitals, going to the NHS, going to doctors, they're not being given no advice. And a lot of people are asking me, how do I stop the bladder pains? How do I stop the ket cramps? And I'd like there to be a magic potion to stop it, but at the end of the day, from my experience, and this is just my experience, I'm not a medical professional, I don't claim to be a medical professional, but it's just stopping the drug. That's the only way to mitigate any consequences that we have from taking it. And I know that seems, when we're in active addiction, for me especially, when people would tell me just stop, I'd think, how the hell am I going to stop? I'm getting worse. But as we're going to later on in this podcast, I went into a world of recovery and into a fellowship and into sober living.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think it's, again, a lot of people in all addictions, they sort of tend to try everything. They want to mitigate the consequences. Mm-hmm. They want to find a way of using without the problems, and so they try all different kinds of cocktails and different remedies and ways of doing that. And I think when they can take a few years for some people, maybe they never get to the end of it. But when you kind of run out of options, and stopping is the only, or appears to be the only solution, at least for people like yourself. And so I guess it's comes to that point. I think it's kind of where we finished up really last time, isn't it? That, how did you stop doing it? How did you stop doing it? That's the question.
Do you know what? I had to go through a journey of absolute terror, misery and pain. And for me, where did we end up? Come out of rehab at 23. And I still thought I could do it on my own. I still thought that I knew the way to mitigate the consequences. I knew the way to bypass the using and still use without consequence. And in the end, how did I stop? That's a great question. You know what? I just got to the point where I'm going to lose my bladder. The hospital were telling me, Jack, you've got hardly nothing left of your bladder. Your capacity's ruined. Now it's affecting your other organs. And at first, for a long time, the hospital would tell me this stuff, yeah? And my nutty brain would tell me, do you know what? He's told me my bladder's ruined, my livers and kidneys are now consequently becoming ruined and damaged from the effects of the bladder. But my head, my nutty head would go, well, my heart's all right, my lungs are all right. Just as that little excuse and a bit of justification for why I can still carry on using. Mm. But to answer your question, I just had to get to a point where it was either at that turning point where I'll either carry on until I actually die or make the changes. I just sit there and go, I need to stop. I really need to stop. I've got a terrible ketamine addiction, Oxycontin addiction. I'm just living to be at some sort of normal level in life, yeah, where I could just get by, a shell of a person. And I had to realise that I'm actually really going to die and I actually have to make the changes. I would cry to myself every day, picking up and doing that and going, I need to stop, I want to stop. And my heart would be screaming at me, Jack, you don't want to do this no more, but I'm governed by this. That lies to me, that tells me, do you know what, just have one more. Just have one more. It'd be different this time. It'd be different next time. Stop when you're 30. All this stuff that my inner dialogue will tell me. And I had to really realise that I need to actually start making changes. It's not just good sitting there talking to the universe and not actually doing anything about it. Mm. So I had to really make the change.
Do you think if your bladder was completely gone, that then you'd probably think there's no point stopping now anyway?
I've got a friend, bless him, who was in that predicament, and he committed suicide, God rest his soul. Mm. And I can only sit there and think, if they took my bladder out, personally, I wouldn't feel like, this is just my opinion for me, I wouldn't feel like there's much life for me. You know, no sex. Do you know what I mean? You're living a life with a bag on your leg, a lot of medical implications. So for me, it'd be scary. But on the other side of that, living with the pain that I live with, inactive addiction towards the end, the bladder pain, there was times where I'd sit there and think, do you know what? It's actually better to take the bladder out. The actual physical pain, the constant electrocuting feeling I'd get all down my lower parts, the constant throbbing, ulcerated pain from my ulcerated bladder, that's where it is, was so severe that sometimes I thought, you know what, take the bladder out. But like I said in the last podcast, I was really lucky with the inflammatory tablets. I was on anti-inflammatory tablets and the infusion, that naturally did mitigate some of the inflammation that was being caused by the metabolites of ketamine, which was causing the ulcerated bladder and the severe nerve damage.
Yeah, I think that's hard for people that are not addicts, especially parents, I guess, to understand that in the face of all of that evidence, all of them issues, you know, the overwhelming rational thought would tell you to stop. But that's just not present at that point. Even like your parents, do you kind of remember, like, I mean, they're because again, there's no reasoning with you at all, is there?
No.
Because there's no reason involved in this. It makes no sense.
They feel like I had a choice, but I didn't have a choice. No. And this is what...
I think that's the bit I'm trying to highlight, to get people to sort of have a look in the mind. You know, people with addiction or understand, but people with haven't, it's just beyond them to understand that choice just not existent in your head, is it? Your head is literally trying to figure out a way round so I can carry on. There's not a voice in your head telling you to stop.
Every other way around it other than stop.
Yeah.
I had to find a route, some sort of hurdle to get around anything but stopping the active ketamine.
And you're even saying a lot of the guys in the comments that are reaching out to you were trying to find ways that you could tell them that they could carry on and not have the consequences.
Yeah, and this is the mad thing from my personal experience. No matter what I've done, no matter what medication I was on to mitigate the bladder problems. Ended up, like I said, on OxyContin and fentanyl mitigated the on the OxyContin and fentanyl to mitigate the consequences of pain. Because I've got that addict in me. If I get ease and comfort with anything else as well, that's just adding to the armoury of the addiction I've got. So I ended up with a ketamine, OxyContin and a fentanyl addiction in the end. And I jumped on the OxyContin just to get a bit of pain relief. But I've got that powerlessness, and if I like something, I'll carry on using. And there was nothing that I experienced that stopped or done any consequences.
Did you go to like local authority drug and alcohol agencies? Now, I guess they're very much into harm minimalisation.
Yep.
So, you know, giving needles to heroin addicts,
Yeah.
and, you know, stuff to mitigate harm. Was there any stuff that they were giving you? What was the advice you were given or help that they were offering?
You know what? For me, I had a pretty, if I'm honest, a bit of a bad experience with the local drug and alcohol agency. They were just telling me to stop or cut down, and every time I'd go there, I was working with them for quite a long time, and every time I would go there, they would say you've been cutting down or trying to stop or moderate, as we spoke about.
So there isn't any substitute or any other chemical or drug that they would give you to try and replace it?
No,
at this point that you know of?
No, there was nothing that they give me. I was already on certain tablets for my bladder. If you involved with the doctors or hospital, and solifenacin, mirabegron and tamsulosin I was on to help with the contractions of my bladder muscle, help it sort of become less strained. Other than that, for the pain, I was already on OxyContin and fentanyl, and the drug and alcohol agency were more worried about the OxyContin and fentanyl than they was about the ketamine, because there's a pathway that they've got in infrastructure in place to help get us off that with a detox, etc. But they didn't really know much about ketamine.
Right.
They didn't, and that's honest to God. And I know they're trying their best.
Do you think that situation's improved? Well, you know, in 2024, where we are now?
I haven't been to the local drug and alcohol service, but I know there's a UK influx of people trying to find out more about ketamine, whether it be physicians, consultants, drug and alcohol agency workers, treatment centres. I know that a lot of people, like you said, are seeing the influx of the amount of clients or amount of patients or people that have got severe ketamine bladder problems or ketamine addiction. And I think there is a surge in a way that people, companies are trying to maybe implement that into their recovery infrastructure.
I think, sorry mate, I think we might get her, take a little video on the end of this one. We'll try and find out what the up-to-date, probably should have done a little bit more homework on that, I think, to find out what's up-to-date is being offered to people at the minute to mitigate the harms or treatment. So I'm not really sure myself. I mean, in the private sector, we got what we do, but I'm not sure what the statutories are doing.
No. Yeah.
The local authorities.
I was trying to get a funded rehab for a long time, and from what I gathered, just from my experience, people who were addicted to opioids or alcohol were in line quicker to get a treatment than people, for say me, on ketamine as my primary substance.
Yeah.
I couldn't stop anyway. They're telling me to cut down. I would just do more. I couldn't fathom that cut down, stop or moderate. For me, it's just I don't have a choice in this stuff. I can't stop or moderate. I was going there, and in my experience, I was just lying. For the first few months, I was going, yeah, I'm doing 2 bags a day. Really, I was doing 10, just because
Would you go in there? Did you want to stop at that point, or was you going there just to make it look like you were trying, or was there any intention for you to get off of it at that point? Or?
So this was after the first rehab. So after the first rehab, I come out and I used for another couple years with consequences. My bladder was straight back to severe urinating jelly, blood. But I was just so guilt, shame, remorse that my dad's paid all that money and it ain't worked, because I didn't really understand recovery. I didn't come out and go to meetings or anything like that. I didn't understand. I just thought I've blow my chance of getting clean. So I ended up using for another couple of years. That's when my opiate addiction started with tramadol, obviously, and trying to manage my arthritis. That I knew that it was getting severe. My dad weren't going to pay for another rehab. So my best thinking was, you know what, maybe I have to go to outside help for my family. And this is why I entered the drug and alcohol services. I wanted to stop, I just couldn't stop. And that's my honest experience. The consequences were so bad for me, yeah, with the bladder, and I started noticing myself, yeah, segregate from society, segregate from my friends. When I'm out, I'm anxious because I've got to go to the toilet every 5 minutes. I can't be out without having ketamine on me. And I'm building this opiate addiction to tramadol, that now that's got to be with me at all times as well, because I'm scared of withdrawals. So I'm trying to balance life as best as I can, and I'm just trying to survive, because in my head then, all I thought was drugs is my problem. When really, with doing a lot of work on myself through fellowship stuff that we'll talk to in a little while, really it was me that's the problem, right? Anywhere I go, it's me. And all this stuff that I've done is me. And I had to understand that after doing a lot of work around this stuff. But yeah, I went there with honesty, trying to give up and trying to stop. But I had no choice, and I would always rack my brain. My dad would be like, why can't you just fucking stop? I can do it. Your brother and sister ain't addicts. What the hell? And I would sit there and think, but I just don't know how. I really don't have a clue how to stop. If I could stop, I'm pissing blood. Really, that should be enough to make me stop. My mates are doing that and they've stopped. They've got mad cat cramps, they've stopped. Why can't I stop? And I'd rack my brains every night, sitting there in tears, thinking, why can't I do this? With the honest in all my heart, yeah, I'm not doing it tomorrow. I'm not doing it tomorrow. And I would believe it to my core. I'd wake up in the morning, as you spoke about, that obsession, that thought that outrides any other thought. I'd wake up in the morning, last 10 minutes, and I couldn't get out my head. So I would just surrender to that thought and just be like, do you know what? I'll just get one. And I'm off. That's how it is for me.
So so you ended up stopping after you went to rehab. So again, I think this is the thing. Sometimes in the community, it's not easy to separate themselves. It's very difficult for them to separate themselves from their drug.
Yeah.
Which is where I like kind of detox units and rehab and that kind of thing, because it separates you. It gives you a chance to other people to assist in helping you separate you from the drug of whatever it is that you're doing. It gives you a bit of a period of time to sort of slowly restore to sanity to some degree.
Yeah.
Because again, it is trying to get you that choice, isn't it? Because people say, well, it's your choice, but you know, we see that as powerless, that you don't have that choice. That's kind of the crux of it, that centres in the mind, that you don't have the choice. Other people, like your dad, saying, just choose.
Yeah.
Why can't you just choose? When are you going to choose? But that's kind of like, there's a good video, like Dr. Kevin McCauley called Pleasure I'm Woven, and
I know that.
Yeah, because it talks about the disease model, and that, you know, and it concludes at the end of it that addiction is a problem. Addiction of choice is the fact that you can't make the choice. So something has to help you make that choice, that you don't want to do it no more.
Mm-hmm.
So when did that moment come for you, and what led to that moment?
When I realised that I ain't got a choice. For me, when I realised that through all the pain, all the suffering, and I talk about this a lot, there's a pivotal moment, which was not last Christmas, the Christmas before. I remember Christmas night, up in my room, all my family are downstairs playing Monopoly, as we do at a Christmas with my family. And I can just remember being in like this trance, yeah. And obviously I've been rehab twice now, before this, yeah.
How long did you go for?
28 days the first time, relapsed on the second day when I come out. The second time I went for another 28 days, and I lasted 6 months. But that was, as we call it in the fellowship, a dry drunk. I'd done a little bit of fellowship stuff at the beginning for the first few months. And then my addiction went straight to money. So what do I go out and do? I start committing crime again because I needed to feed that void I got, and money just took the place of drugs. I was out there until something happened, didn't like it, couldn't deal with it, maladjusted to life, couldn't cope. And my first thought then was, you know what, one bag of kit ain't gonna kill me. I've done 6 months. And my mum and dad were really happy with me. They don't understand the disease of addiction. They thought, I've done 6 months, he's never using again. I really thought that, if I'm honest. Took that one blast of ketamine, one key, as we spoke about. And it's like, this is how I can explain it. I took that key in the car, and 8 months.
See, that's where some of us think that's the most insane moment in your life. Not when you're doing drugs and you do more drugs. It's when you get off the drugs for a period of time, and then you lose the choice. Then you choose to do it again. That's the most insane moment of your life, because that's a clear head making that choice.
Insanity, innit?
Yeah, that's the insanity. And again, I think, labouring on these points is because, you know, people out there, and they're going to be, how do I make them make the choice? It's like, so again, exploring what led you to being able to make the choice. I think it's kind of what treatment is. It's what recovery is, isn't it? Recovering the choice not to do it. How do you do that? How did you do that? That's the question.
Yeah. So about 8 months here, and I just splurted out at the end, and I'm at this pivotal moment. I'm sitting there Christmas Day, and I'm in like this trance, just staring at fentanyl patches, yeah, and a box of OxyContin, just like in this daze. And it seems so clear to me, and it always sticks in my brain. And I was just thinking, do you know what? I generally want to kill myself. I generally don't know any other option. I know that my mum and dad can't save me, yeah? They put me in 2 treatment centres already. These drug and alcohol service ain't fucking helping. I don't know what to do. I generally don't know what to do. I'm trying, yeah? Or at least I thought I was trying. I thought that after that 6 months I would never use again, and it's like the ego was just ripped from me. All that, I think I can do it on my own. I have some sort of choice or power. And I just had a realisation on that moment that I can either carry on, and I don't think I would have made it to the end of last year. Honest to God, I was 7 stone. I had jaundice. All my liver was just fatty. My kidneys were not working properly where it's getting backed up. My bladder is absolutely ruined. I was urinating about this cup. I was urinating about 30 mil every 5 minutes. Sometimes I couldn't even get the urine out. It was so congealed and like clotted, pissing out parts of my bladder. And I just sat there and just thought, you know what? It's either I die and just give up and just actually think, you know what? I'm gonna die. And it was either take that road, take that choice. It's like I was at a turning point, or do I make a change, or at least honestly try make the change and just do something? So I went and sat with my parents, and they didn't even really want to put me in rehab at first, if I'm honest. I really asked, I begged, because I knew that you said this last time, which is so, I always thought the rehabs were a waste of money, them 2 first rehabs, but they weren't, and you made me realise that. I realised that, you know what, I learnt so much in them. And they took me to the place where I got to the point I was there, and I realised what I'd done wrong from their first treatments. And when I got out, not to make the same mistake again. That's where my self-development and growth was, yeah? And I asked my dad to rehab, and family, my auntie ended up paying for my rehab. And I went again. And this is where something...
See, I've got a eye like this. I know this gets on people's nerves, but this is
fine.
the addiction bit. It's like... Because again, I think it's important for people to realise that, see, what you hit there was the rock bottom. Mm-hmm. See, now most people think the rock bottom is all that external stuff, but you'd already had tons of that.
Yep.
Now, that weren't getting worse. You already got to the worst bit and beyond, but now you're in this place where you actually are hitting the rock bottom. And again, I think, you know, the other stuff that you learn in recovery, in the rehabs, in the treatment services, that helps you to come to that rock bottom, because again, the rock bottom isn't the external, it's that internal, where you fully concede to your innermost self that you are a ketamine addict. But see, the important part of that is it's when you know
Yes.
you need help.
That's it, innit?
When you know you need help and become willing to accept that help, that's the rock bottom. That's the turning point. That's the point you want to get people to. And so again, it's like you expressed there. That's what the rock bottom is. That moment when you know you need help.
And that's exactly it, because I was doing like a lot of reflection over them 8 months of how my life have got to this point. And I was just thinking, I'm living in hospitals. I would just take myself. When life got too much, yeah, because of my arthritis and my levels in my blood, I'd go to hospital, they'd admit me straight away. I'm getting free morphine in A&E, intravenously. I'm getting oxycodone. Yeah, I'm safe. Yeah, I felt safe. And my life wasn't worth living, honestly. And I just think, how is this not enough for me to stop? But it weren't until, like you said, I really realised internally and honest with myself. That's the key point. It weren't about being honest with my dad or my mum or my drug workers or the counsellors I was under. It was and they were telling me, you're powerless, you're this, you're that, you're an addict. And it's great, yeah, they can tell me that. I've been being told that for 5 years, that I've got a severe problem. But it wasn't until I realised it myself and actually stood there and think, everything people have been saying to me is actually true, and I truly believe it in my whole hearts of myself. And it weren't until then, and it's sort of like the step one it talks into a fellowship, admitting that I am powerless, that I, Jack, have no choice over the matter whether I use or not, is now the foundation for me to now realise, okay, then where do I go from here? And you know the mad thing? My dad and my auntie put me back into rehab, yeah? And I was so nervous. But I felt quite, how's it word, like, I felt free. Because I feel like I already turned myself over to, do you know what? This is it. I see a lot of people when they talk about their surrender, they said it was really hard. My surrenders over the years were really hard because I knew that it was a surrender deep down.
Well, there's a big difference between submitting
There you go, yeah.
and surrendering.
Yeah.
A lot of people submit. That's kind of like if we get you around the head and punch you in the face,
Yeah.
you say, I submit. But then when we let you go, you start fighting again.
Yep.
When you surrendered, you don't start fighting again.
Yep.
So there's a big difference. And a lot of people, they appear surrendering, but they're only submitting to try and keep out of trouble. Or, like you said there, as soon as your mum and dad are happy again, everyone's happy, you're back at it again.
Yeah, that's it.
That's not surrender, that's submitting. Big difference.
I was submitting, and yeah, I'd realised that, yeah, as soon as life got manageable again, and I weren't in that suicidal ideation, and the drugs weren't just, and the consequences were all over me.
Relapse.
Yeah, I thought, you know what, my best idea was, you know what, that weren't that bad in the end, you know what I mean? When I thought about it, I didn't even really at the time before I relapsed think about it. It was just not even a conscious decision. I just used. I couldn't deal with whatever was happening at the time. And yeah, I just ended up from going through this pain. And like, for anyone sitting there watching this and like they're really struggling with the addiction, it's like it seems quite brutal, yeah, but this is just my experience. And I'll say no one has to get to where I got to with this drug abuse, where I'm pissing blood, pissing jelly, dying, addicted to heavy opioids. No one needs to get to that point. But for me, I needed to get to that point myself and realised, honestly, I ain't got no power in this. There's no way I can mitigate the circumstances and consequences. There ain't no way I can use Ket safely without harming myself. There is 100% I'm harming myself because I'm an addict that has no stop or moderation. So I'm using every day and my body cannot deal with the amount of ketamine I'm putting in my system. So there's no way I'm getting out of the consequences. I was living the consequences. And it wasn't until like I realised that and actually got to that rock bottom where you said it perfectly. Honestly, I understood myself that and I asked for help because I understood that Jack has no control over his using no more. I will actually, on my own will, on Jack's control, I'm going to die. That's it.
That's page 30 of the AA book. about smashing the delusion and that conceding to our innermost self. That's the step before the step, we call it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a step before step one. You won't take step one until you've done the step before the step.
There you go.
Just concede to your innermost self that you're addict or alcoholic and that you need help.
And that was exactly my experience, and it felt freeing. Because it weren't like, how do I put it? It weren't like I even had to think about it. In a sense, it was
Well,
like...
it's not, because it says that's why we become conscious, step two, that a power greater than ourself.
Yeah.
See, some people say God and all that. It doesn't have to be.
No.
It's just, you're going to start listening to something other than yourself. It's yourself that keeps telling you to take the ketamine. You don't listen to anybody else or anything else. You can't. It's not inside yourself. So the moment that you let go of that, you find a power greater than self. That power then can help you restore your choice.
You know how I explain it, yeah? It's sitting there in that trance. My head was telling me all this stuff, yeah? I need to kill myself, I'm ruining my family, I'm ruining my life, I'm ruining my sister's life, blah, blah, blah. And I just had this overwhelming, that little voice that's always spoke to me in a loving way that tells me, Jack, don't pick up that kit, don't do this, don't do that. Really sounded a bit louder that day, you know? And it really told me that the truth of the fact that I'm going to die. I'm actually going to die if I don't actually do stuff, do action, and take my life into my own hands for this little bit and actually ask for help. Because I can carry on the same road and I'll be dead. My bladder weren't lasting a lot longer. And I asked for help and I managed to get help. And this is where something up there, I choose to call it God today, but like as you explained, it don't matter what you want to call it. It's like something in the universe was watching over me. And I got a call. And my auntie's just paid for rehab. And I got a call from Sober Living, Recovery First Housing in Southend. And Grant was on the phone. And he said, would you like to come to our rehab? And I said, my auntie's already paid for rehab. And he said, listen, I was like, to be honest with you, my heart wants to go to rehab again. But my head's so loud. It's telling me I'm going to fail. I've done it twice. It's just giving me loads of negative. I'm in absolute agony. I'm scared to go to rehab because I'm wearing nappies. I'm scared about the judgment of my peers. I'm scared about not being able to do the groups because I'm pissing myself. I'm scared that I'm stinking a piss. I'm in absolute agony. My ket cramps were back. And I got rushed to hospital in rehab as well because I had a biliary problem. And I had pain in my biliary and my gallbladder. I was really scared, you know. But I knew deep down, honest with self, that I had to go through this vulnerability and this process to get any chance of living a life. And he asked me, do I want to go into a sober living? And then my head was going, nah, you don't want to go there. But it's like I had clarity, a little bit of clarity to realise that the last two rehabs, this is what happened when I come out. The second rehab, this is what happened when I come out. My experience tells me that when I come back, I may be able to get a bit of clean time. As soon as I start feeling well again, my ego reconstructs.
But you also knew, I guess, that you didn't do what was suggested in them two rehabs either when you come out?
No.
You kind of knocked that on the head, or you didn't think you needed to do that?
The second one, I come out and I really was, honestly, really wanted to work the programme and do it. But as soon as I got well again, my ego reconstructs. Week by week, I dropped one meeting, then dropped the prayers off, then dropped this off, then dropped that off. And by the end, I feel...
Self's back again.
I'm back, and I'm like where I went into... I'm like where I was when I was... Felt like I was when I was 17, like when I can do drugs on my own. It's sweet, I ain't going to have no problems. 8 months later, I'm sitting there wanting to kill myself again. And I realised that I've got to just realise that I know fuck all, sorry to swear, and I can't do it on my own. I had to really realise that. And I went to treatment, done a Subutex detox again, which was hell. Looking into treatment, because when I went into treatment, there was nothing to even help me.
What was the Subutex for?
Oxycontin and fentanyl.
Yeah, it wasn't for the ketamine.
No, and this is what I sort of can... I'm trying to look into, because when I speak to a lot of people that have got severe ketamine addiction, got severe fibrotic bladder and ulcerated bladder, got severe pains, and they're in absolute agony, as I was. What is the treatment centres going to do to mitigate the pain and make it comfortable when they're in there? Because if I weren't wearing a nappy, I couldn't be able to do the groups.
I think it's complicated, mate.
I know it is.
Because, again, everybody's doing different things on top. They're all got... So, again, it's like, I believe in assessments. You have to do a real good assessment.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we do really good assessments for people because each person needs different treatment depending on all the factors involved. So it's not just like... You're not got like Puritans where they just... ketamine and no other problems.
Yeah.
It's usually lots of different things mixed in and different stages, so it's difficult, but good assessments is important.
And it's hard because if they're in pain, the route or the pathway for pain management is normally something like a neuropathic drug, pregabalin, or an opioid.
Yeah, and some of them medications are difficult to give if they've got a smashed up liver. So
and obviously if they're addicts,
it becomes very complicated. Well, you don't know what they're taking. A lot of the time, the doctors are having to go on what the addicts are telling them. We know addicts ain't the most honest people.
There you go.
So again, it's very complicated. So like doing really good assessments is so important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I went through that Subutex detox. It was horrendous. Pissing in nappies, really self-conscious. I'm in a rehab with 25 people, constantly think I stink of piss. I have to go and lay down every couple hours. When I was sitting down, it was all right, but if I was walking around, I'd get this electrocuting pain, and a lot of people have reached out to me saying I really relate to that pain, especially the boys. That electrocuting, stabbing pain you get from literally your bum all the way to the end of your penis. It's absolutely horrendous, and stops your mobility. You can't walk about. It's like you're shocked. And sad, yeah, and I got through that, and I went to sunny Southend. Nervous.
Southend's the solution.
No, it weren't the solution, but you know what, being in recovery...
There's a good fellowship there, good group of people.
Yeah, and I still had really a lot of fear, not a lot of hope. Because my head's now, I'm clean, and my head's just banging all this negative stuff in my head. You're gonna fail, this, that. You got a lot of pressure. Now your auntie's paid for rehab, and it was a lot of pressure. I remember driving down in the car, stopping for a wee every 20 minutes. My bladder's got a tiny bit better, but the pain's still there. But I'm stopping for a wee, and I remember rocking up to Southend and meeting Sonia and Recovery First housing team. And I went into the dry house, and really lucky, the people I had in the dry house were all banging recovery, really working the program, really working fellowship.
It's 12-step recovery.
12-step recovery. And I just got right involved. And I remember walking to a meeting, yeah, still wearing a nappy, and I felt like so scared, yeah, so nervous, so anxious that I'm stinking of piss, that I look so ill, I look so different, and these people are all just happy and chirpy people because they're working a program and they're clean and sober. I was clean and sober and still didn't feel...
Yeah, just for people who don't know, these are 12-step groups. They're not funded by anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody can go. You can find them online, and it's just groups of people in recovery that are addicts that are trying to work a program and help each other stay clean.
Yep.
And they become your friends and support group, and anyone can turn up at that. There's no real blocks or assessments or recommendations or referrals. You can just go to them. And how important did you find that group of people?
You know what? I walked in there hopeless, and just seeing that everyone in there, or people that have got a bit of sobriety, were sitting there without using a substance, whether it be alcohol, cocaine, ketamine, opiates, etc. And they were sitting there and they were happy. And they told me that I don't ever have to use a drink or drug again. They told me that. And I really needed to hear that. I really needed to feel the hope from their aura to me to be like, it's going to be all right. Because I was so full of fear, so full of anxiety, that it was just engulfing me, yeah? And I just kept going back because I knew that vulnerability is going to leave me in good stead for the future, right? And from my experience in the past, my way don't work. So if you're telling me in your 10 years clean that you done this to get clean, I was so broken and beat up inside physically, emotionally and spiritually that I thought, do you know what? I can't think of anything worse than going back to where I was. And this is a small consolation, going to meetings and doing a program to live a life that I've now got, which is bloody amazing compared to going back there.
See, that's a power greater than yourself as well. Not necessarily an individual, but a group of people that you're willing to listen to what they're telling you, listen to what they did and be willing to do it yourself. Because they're just telling you what worked for them and it may work for you as well. So that's the most important. See, because when people start going, oh, it's all about God and that, it's like, no, not really. It's just your ego is yourself. And if you keep listening to yourself, because again, I don't think that this is probably not as politically correct as it was when I started, but they would say this to me, and this is so important. They said, look, you got a sick brain, and your sick brain can't cure a sick brain. Their sick brain can't cure a sick brain. You need to find someone that's doing well, that ain't got a sick brain, and you need to listen to them. And again, I wouldn't want to be following one person around, but a group of people, I felt more comfortable doing what they were doing, like following in their footsteps. And I think that's important about the 12-step fellowships to know, isn't it? Because again, people think it's religious. It can be, but not necessarily. It can just be, look, these have gone on that path. Just follow that path that they've gone on. It worked for them. It may work for you. And again, you've got to have a bit of faith and a bit of trust like you did at the beginning. But seeing all of them people, shiny eyes and doing well, that kind of made you think, you know what, I want to stick around and give it a go. Again, trying to highlight that's important for people to know.
100%.
Because they might walk in and feel a bit uncomfortable. You know, there is a solution there. And that's important, at least for you and for me and for lots of other people.
Yeah.
That, you know, people want to know. We even talked at the beginning, it's like, well, what do you do? It's like, well, I don't know what you do. I can only tell you what I did. And this is what I did, and this is what you did. And it worked. And it's important people know that. It's not, you didn't just get it sitting at home. You started changing the way you were living your life, the way you were behaving, the people you were hanging around with. You know, that stuff's important for people to know. If you want to get free, you're going to have to at least do what Jack did.
Really helped me, the sober living, you know. I talked to a lot of people about this sober living.
So that bit was quite interesting because I never really talked about it. So sober living, explain that a little bit.
Yeah, so sober living is obviously from treatment, that's obviously primary care, and then secondary care is sober living as I know it. So that is just how Recovery First Housing works is there's probably about 7-8 houses around Southend, and they're all abstinence-based houses, and you'll get anything from 9, they're mixed out, some of them are mixed houses, some of them are just male, some of them are just female, and you get support from the office do certain groups on Tuesdays and Thursdays, some for males on their own, some as everyone and females on their own, etc. And it's just an abstinence-based house where people all live and they're all doing recovery, you know.
And you're all supporting each other.
And we're all supporting each other. We have supported by the professionals, the recovery workers, e.g. Sonia.
Yeah.
And I could not believe...
You can stay there for...
They say 2 years. I know people that have stayed longer. But for me, I really realised that it's just a stepping stone for me to get back to normal living. And I really made the most of the year I was in there. Yeah. I only went for 2 months. That was my head, 2 months. Yeah. And I'm going back to London. When I got in there and I realised in them 2-3 months what I've learnt about myself and what I'm getting from the fellowship, the 12-step fellowship, and how comfortable I feel in this area around the people that I know that are not using drugs, not drinking. Yeah. I felt like I made it my new home.
Well, it's probably not going to be forever, but it's important for you now, isn't it?
Big time. Well important. And do you know what? I value that place so much, and I still go back there a lot now. And I help the newcomers that are coming through there, and take them out for coffee, sponsor a few of them. And I just really realised that for me, I needed to make that change. I've been to rehab before, and this is where I learned. Rehab before, the first and second one, going back to my area, wasn't conducive for recovery because of me, not the drugs, because of me and the way I am as a person, my ego. But going there, into Southend to a new place, and people call that a geographical, but I went to do recovery. I weren't running from the drug. I went to explore me and understand what I suffer with. And I went there, and it's the best decision I've ever made in my life, wholeheartedly. And I say to people that have reached out to me through Instagram, Facebook, etc., we need to stop, firstly, whether that going to doing any recovery, but we've got to make changes as well. I said, like, we're not going to make changes doing the same things.
Yeah, because again, I think, you know, what you did at the beginning, you just went into treatment, which is good, but it's not the overall answer. There's a longer term, you know, I say, you know, people are going to need a lot of treatment some people are going to need a lot of treatment for a short period of time. Some people are going to need a lot of treatment for a long period of time. See, my project was set up for long term, for people to stay for as long as they needed to stay. Some very short, 6 weeks, some years, but they needed that for their brains to redevelop. And that's important for a lot of guys to realise that fellowship become a big part of your life, like a daily part of your life, really, isn't it? That you're sort of committed to recovery. So a lot of your day for the last couple of years has been spent thinking about recovery, being a part of recovery. That you've got a commitment to it and you put effort into it.
100%. That is exactly it. I started off when I got there, recovery was a must. Yeah, because I had to do that, because I knew that recovery had to come first. And there was a bit of like, I wouldn't say, how do I put it? It was like I just knew I had to do this. But now, like you said, it's an intuitive part of life now. It comes first no matter what. Because whether it's been my job, whether it be my family relationships, etc., etc. Without recovery, I ain't got them anyway.
No, it's like a substitute, isn't it? It's like saying, look, you're not fixed, but we got a substitute.
Solution.
If you do this, you don't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So just choosing not to do it, especially in the early days, is not really a choice. It's the choice is you either do that or do this.
That's exactly it.
If you do this, you'll be able to choose not to do that. If you don't do this, you're probably not going to be able to choose not to do that.
Nothing changes if nothing changes, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to get to people, get to the masses, that this ketamine does not give a monkeys. Does not give a monkeys what race you are. It don't give a monkeys if you're male, female. It don't give a monkeys. It does not discriminate. If you're taking it and you build an addiction where you're using every day, regardless if it's a gram or half an ounce like me, you're going to end up with severe problems to the point where your bladder's going to end up taken out, or you're just not going to be able to live a manageable life. And the amount of people I've spoke to over this last month since we've done this first podcast that have reached out to me from the age of 15 up to parents, sisters, cousins, saying that their family member or themselves is in the depths of addiction where they're going to lose their bladder. Yeah, they're in hospitals. Exactly the same story as me. Tells me that the only way to get better is we've got to do some sort of recovery. From my experience, and I can only sit here and give my experience, there was nothing that mitigated the consequences for me other than ceasing the use of ketamine and going on having a sufficient substitute that's going to fill that void in a sense, yeah, that I use ketamine for to give me some sort of solution, change the solution from ketamine, from fentanyl, from OxyContin to recovery. And I understand for ketamine addicts that it's hard. Like I said, 6 to 9 months I was still in pain from my bladder, still in agony. I'd have to have days where I'll sit there for an hour in bed, lay down and just drink water constantly because I feel like I need to go to the toilet but I can't go, that's the ulcers. And then drink loads of water to give me some sort of relief, and I'd go to the toilet, then I'm going to the toilet constantly for an hour every 2 minutes. I had to do that every day because I'd get some sort of agonising pain. And sometimes I sat there and thought, is this ever going to get any better? And a lot of people have asked me, is it going to get any better? And like I said, I'm not a medical professional, but I can only give my experience. And for me, 6 to 9 months, around that time, the pain started getting lesser and lesser. It'd be 2-3 times a week instead of every day. And around a year, I haven't had pain in about 6-7 months. get the odd irritation where my nerves in
I guess as well you're looking after yourself a lot better on every level, and you
every level, going to the gym, trying my hardest. I suffer with a disability.
Yeah.
But I try because I've got discipline today. I know that I've got a foundation of recovery that allows me to be able to go out and treat my body kindly, treat my mental health kindly. I can do that today as long as I have recovery. If I don't have recovery, I'll be back on the fentanyl, back on the ketamine, and be probably dead within a year. But if you're watching this and you're sitting there, it's like, if you're thinking I'm too far gone, and I thought that so many times, I'm too far gone, they might as well take my bladder out, it's never going to get any better. Your bladder's definitely not going to get any better if you carry on sniffing ketamine. No, that's a fact. It's only going to get worse. You haven't got nothing to lose by stopping. You've got everything to gain. And I generally thought, with my whole heart, I was not going to get better, bladder-wise.
So Jack, sorry, there we had to have a little break. The camera overheated, but so I think in traditions of the 12-step fellowship, we've certainly talked about what it used to be like, how bad it was, what happened to you, and so it might be nice just to talk about what's it like now. What does your life look like now? I think because again, I think your friend who you said committed suicide, and I think this is a new thing with sort of ketamine, isn't it? That very quickly young people can have a lot of physical damage that's not going to get better. It may improve somewhat, and a lot of people will be facing that choice. I don't want to live like this. But you know, I know that you're, how old are you again?
28.
So you're still a young man, and you've got quite a lot of health problems. So just to giving people some hope that there is life after ketamine addiction.
So like I've said, I didn't think there was going to be hope with my bladder, and 6 to 9 months is I'm not in pain no more. My capacity is not the best. Still get up multiple times a night, but that's manageable compared to where I was 2 years ago. That is 80% better than it was. I'm not in pain, and that's all I wanted to stop was the physical, agonising pain. I still have, obviously, an autoimmune disease, which I manage through infusions from the NHS. But all this is, I'm not in agonising pain today, and that's, with the ketamine, that's all I wanted to get rid of. The ket cramps, the bladder problems. And I got that wish, by staying clean and getting clean and doing a 12-step fellowship. I don't live in agony today. I have the ups and downs with the arthritis, but that's manageable today. I've never felt pain like bladder pain from ketamine, and I'm so grateful, And this should give hope to anyone. By stopping ketamine, you've got a really, really good chance of your bladder getting better to the point where you're not in pain no more. And that's my experience, and I can only give my experience. I'm no longer, I feel so grateful to sit here and say I'm no longer in pain from the effects of ketamine. Sometimes it's annoying that I go to the toilet a bit, but in the grand scheme of things, I can't believe I'm not in pain with ketamine no more, because I've ripped myself off to the fact that I'm going to have no bladder or be dead. How grateful am I to sit here nearly 18 months clean and tell other addicts that are going through similar things to me, or have been through similar things to me, that it ain't over. How powerful is that? That it does get better. And I know there is the unfortunate ones that they might have to have their bladder taken out, or have to have reconstructive surgeries. I've got friends that have had reconstructive surgery. Some have gone well, some haven't. And we won't ever know if your bladder's going to get better while you're still using. Got to take that leap of faith and implement that change. Because, to be honest, I've seen it through people reaching out to me. They're on the verge of death. And that's honest, the same as I was. But life today, I have a wicked life today, So I've got so much back. I had nothing when I walked into the dry house, other than my parents that loved me but didn't like me because of the amount of pain I've caused. Family members that loved me but didn't like me. Just come with a suitcase and a bit of hope that I can get better. And today, this is just in the physical. Got my licence back after 2.5 years. Work in a treatment centre, step-by-step recovery. I'm doing a counselling level 5. That's starting September. I've done my levels before that. I'm in the midst of a psychology degree as well. my whole life, my relationship, my family is really good. They're healing. They're not healed. They're not recovered. They're still healing, like we spoke about. My dad's got a lot of work to do, especially my old man, around the trauma I've caused. Him, his kids, my mum. But they're a hell lot better than they were 18 months ago. The trust is slowly starting to come back. And I got clean 2 months, I thought they should trust me. But the amount of pain I caused for 10 years, they're still healing from that, you know. But I got all this stuff today that I never thought was even tangible. I didn't think I'd ever get this back. I'm on a whole new journey. And the best thing is that I don't, no matter what life throws at me, I've had a friend dying in recovery. I've had dramas happen, stuff I'm powerless over. I've had days where I just don't feel good in myself. I'm human. I'm not always going to be up there.
Well, you still have quite severe physical issues, don't you?
And for 9 months, I'm still in agony with my bladder. My arthritis is still really up and down. But at one point, there's not one point I think about using ketamine.
Yeah,
that obsession to use, as you spoke about, is so good. And I've used it since that moral list you talked about. Ketamine's not even on it, really. It's right at the bottom, somewhere down there.
It's not an option.
Nah. Where everything should be family, recovery first, family, friends, loyalty, honesty, blah, blah, blah. That's how my life is today. Still have a bloody laugh, still go to the gym to do the best I can with my disability. I go to conventions, recovery conventions, I go on holiday today. I get to see the world. I get to experience the world. I get to have good conversations like with yourself, like with just people around me that are in recovery. We can just have an organic conversation, just not stimulated by the use of drugs or alcohol. It's meaningful conversation today that I actually leave the conversation and think, fucking hell, I've learnt a bit there. That was good. I'm happy today. Do you know what I mean?
What's the best thing in your life? What do you like doing most?
The best thing in my life, and this is honest, not being in pain in my bladder. I really ripped myself off, and there's nothing worse. I've had my legs broken. I've been in accidents, skiing accidents, I've had broken limbs, etc. There is nothing that even touches ketamine bladder pain for me. And I am so grateful that I do not have to sit in that pain no more. It makes me a bit like emotional because I think I was so hopeless and so resigned to the fact that my bladder's coming out that I need to try and get over the fact that I'm going to be pissing in a bag because I'm in so much agony. I'm just so grateful that I don't have to be in that pain no more because it dictated my whole life. I couldn't leave the house, constantly pissing the bed, wearing nappies, all this stuff that was just for my spirit, for my internal, was just demoralising. It says about that, what you know the word, incomprehensible demoralisation.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I felt. I couldn't even understand how demoralised I actually was inside. It's not now in hindsight I realised how broken of a person I was. And obviously the family stuff, sitting there in Christmas time, you know, like this Christmas, last Christmas, so much different to the Christmas before. I'm sitting there playing Monopoly. I'm not in my room staring at fentanyl wanting to kill myself. Plus I'm helping others today. I don't come on here to get fucking loads of views and blow up on TikTok or whatever. I come here for the purpose of I understand, because I've been through the pain that if you're sniffing ketamine every day and you've got an addiction to ketamine, I understand your pain. I understand the harm, the fear that you're causing yourself and your family. I understand that. I've been through that. I'm just here to help and just be there as some sort of support in any way I can to just let you know that it ain't got to be like that. You ain't got to be 6 foot under in the end or pissing in a bag. But you've got to be doing stuff recovery-wise to get yourself out of that. And it ain't easy. I'm not sitting there saying just stop, because people are telling me that for years.
We see that ain't an option, is it?
Nah.
Thank you, Jack. I think we're going to... Just one more question. Where do you like to see yourself in 5 years? You got dreams of where you want to go?
Yeah, so like I said, I work in a rehab and I want to get my counselling level 5 diploma, which I'll start in September. And I'm torn between either staying at step by step and just working there, or going abroad with my arthritis. I really need to manage that, and maybe going to maybe somewhere like Thailand. I spoke to you earlier about Thailand or America, and just helping other addicts. That is my purpose today. I've lacked purpose through life. My purpose was to use drugs for a long time, yeah. It's just the control it had over me, yeah. And today I've got a purpose to help others. As long as my family are fine, as long as I'm being good, honest, loving to my family, and I'm a good member of society, not committing crime, helping others, I'm happy. That's all it is. And just, especially around the ketamine, I'm so passionate because I feel like I'm a survivor from the ketamine. Yeah, I've been in that dark place, and I'm 100% sure to just having, if you're suffering, having someone to speak to like myself, or like people that have got through it on its own, just knowing that there's people there that have been there and got through that, is hope on its own.
Yeah.
Powerful, right?
Yep. That's what it's about, mate. It's what makes it work, isn't it, really?
Just want to thank you, Lester, for giving me the opportunity to come onto your platform, mate.
Cheers, mate. It's been good talking to you, and good learning about it. It's again, I think one of the things we found out is there's not much of this information on the internet.
Nah.
And I'd just like to say, if anyone out there has got a positive story, or they've got solutions or things that we haven't thought of or mentioned, I actually said that, at the end I may add a little bit about what the local authorities do, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave that. If any of you guys know the treatment that's out there, maybe you could leave that in the comments section, and if any of it's relevant, other people can see it directly, and we'd be interested in hearing from you. If you've got anything you think that you can add to the conversation and you want to reach out to us. If you're having trouble finding the right rehab, because I think, like Jack was saying there, is that it's not just even the rehab, it's also that sober living can be an important thing, but that starts with a good assessment, and we can help you with that assessment if you reach out and make suggestions to you. And I think you've got, how do I get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can just... we will put up an Instagram page. It's just Jack Curran 95, J.Curran95, I think. But Matt will put up the Instagram page. But listen, do not hesitate to message me. I am just there to help family members or addicts themselves, and just try to give them a little bit of advice. But please do not hesitate to message me. I'm more than happy to help, give you my phone number or whatever, and try direct you with my experience of what worked for me. And that's all I've got to offer you, what worked for me. And yeah, so there'll be a link on my Instagram on somewhere on this video or in the comments, etc. But yeah, just want to emphasise, sure, please message me if you're struggling.
And hopefully get your mum on here. So appreciate everybody listening. Hopefully you learned something. It's pretty good information. Tells you what to do if this way of recovery is something that you might think may work for you. Give it a go. Anyway, apart from that, thank you, Jack.
Cheers,
God bless
thank
everyone.
you.
Take care.
God bless.